Welcome to Scotch Plains, New Jersey. This is Verizon Fios, Channel 22, and Comcast Cable, Channel 34. Scotch Plains Television. Your town, your TV.
Scotch Plains Television presents a meeting of the Township Council. And now, from the municipal building, the Scotch Plains Mayor and Council.
We're live. I guess we should go the whole round. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the council business meeting, November 12th, 2013. Ms. Lucina, could you read the Open Public Meetings Act?
I wish to make the following announcement to show compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, known as Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of New Jersey, 1975. Notice of this meeting was given by adopting an annual schedule of the location, time, and date, sending copies to the Scotch Plains Fanwood Times, the Star Ledger, and the Courier News, posting in the municipal building, and filing a copy with the township clerk within 7 days following the annual organizational meeting of this body. If you would please rise for the pledge to the flag and remain standing for an invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing.
I would like to ask you to indulge me. Yesterday, as you know, was Veterans Day. My father is a Vietnam veteran. I asked him to prepare something. He chose instead to send me this prayer. It's a prayer for the soldier. It is the soldier, not the reporter, who has given us freedom of the press. It is the soldier, not the poet, who has given us freedom of speech. It is the soldier, not the campus organizer, who has given us the freedom to demonstrate. It is the soldier, not the lawyer, who has given us the right to a fair trial. It is the soldier who salutes the flag, who serves under the flag, and whose coffin is draped by the flag, and who allows the protester to burn the flag. So I would offer tonight's prayer in honor of veterans everywhere and ask God to protect those who currently serve us for our country. Thank you.
Amen. Very nicely done. Okay, not everybody come up to the mic at once. This is our public comment section. If you come to the mic, please state your name and address.
You need to do roll call?
I'm sorry, you're right. See how quickly you forget when you get old. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Giulianella?
Thank you, Councilman.
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Marcus?
Here.
Mr. Vastine?
Here.
Mayor Glover?
Here. Now, moving right along, public comment. Please state your name and address. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Guido Pastucci at 436 Sanger Place, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. I'm here in reference to the discussions that we had over here last month about Darby Road Pavilion, about the zoning permits or not. Did we find out anything, by the way?
Those zoning permits were not an issue, as we stated the last time, when it changed with respect to the ABC licensing. In fact, if we received the information, I have spoken.
Pull the mic closer to you, please, Jerry.
I have since the meeting spoken with the representatives of Darby Road, and the next time they do an event where they are going to request the use of outside music, they've agreed to be amenable with respect to times. I haven't put an exact time frame on that yet, but it's not going to be 1 in the morning, that I can tell you.
So do I understand? I think we have to, I want to just try to be clearer than that. I thought we had discussed 12 midnight, and that the music that was played, Jerry, would be indoors and not outdoors ever.
Well, that was a time that was discussed, but that I didn't pin them to a time yet. I was going to wait until the next time something comes up. I don't think it's appropriate to put a time on it now until, for example, from what I understand from last year, St. Patrick's Day was one of those days. As we get closer and as those permits come in, we'll discuss it when the event gets forward. But I can tell you it's not going to be 1 o'clock in the morning.
No, but could we, but should this council give consideration, Jerry, to, passing a resolution that says, to make it so that we don't have this ambiguity that, today it's 12 o'clock, it's 1 o'clock, it's 2 o'clock,
If you want to
I'm
pass
just
an
trying,
ordinance.
I'm just asking, and, you know, because I think we gotta have something.
Certainly within your right to pass an ordinance to do that, but with respect to the last event, everything was done properly.
But I think the permit allowed till 2 AM, if I'm not mistaken?
Well, that's because that's the time the liquor license is allowed to be
Right.
served until.
Okay.
That's the reason that was occurred. But in light of the concerns that we've had from our neighbor over here, you know, they have agreed, as the time gets closer, to work with us to not go until 1 o'clock in the morning. If you want to do it by ordinance another way, you're certainly welcome to
No,
do
no, I'm
that.
just trying to work with everyone here. I'm just saying, yeah, maybe it's something we put on the conference.
Mr. Mayor,
We
right-
could put on the conference for next meeting. They're not gonna resolve it here, they're not in the business meeting.
right now, that's not the issues, having permits or not. Have you guys got a copy of the resolution when they got the building?
They don't, I have it, Jerry?
You have a copy of the resolution?
Not at the moment, no.
You don't. Do you have a copy of the parking analysis? These all got gray areas. All gray areas. All these points, it's got gray areas. And they got stuff that they gotta comply with, and they didn't comply with. This parking analysis was done by one of the general partners, and these got tremendous amount of gray areas. So you should read this too. We got the resolution over here, which has got gray areas. We've got parking analysis, which has got gray. And we got a permit from the ABC, which has got gray areas, which I will give it to the council over there. During the week, I called up the mayor and called up your office for an appointment because I know that there's a lot of people over here, and I don't want to take up all your time. You guys got a lot of stuff on the agenda. And I'm trying to set up, I don't know what to do to set up an appointment. We called the mayor, we called the manager over here, we called the manager about October 24th. No response back. There's any way we can set up an appointment so we don't have to take up all this time over here?
Just for the record, I don't recall, and I looked at my voicemail, sir,
What?
in town. Yeah, okay, but I did share.
I called him October 24th.
Okay, I just.
My wife
I just-
emailed you.
No, that, and believe me, Mr. Gines, I forward everything to you, and I do, you know, right. Okay, but not, let's allow,
Okay, now, is there any way before we go all through this paperwork over here, because I got questions about the ABC permit, okay? I got questions about the resolutions, which is all gray areas. I got questions about the parking, and I got questions about when this permit was used for them. Is there any way, without going into a length time, where the mayor and the manager can set up an appointment with Mr. Pasucci over here? Don't forget, we are neighbors. I came over here, and I don't want to fight with my neighbors, and you people should defend your own rights. I am here to defend township property, while you guys should be defending township property. I just don't understand it.
I understand.
I gotta
that.
spend my time to defend township property. I mean, it doesn't make any sense, does it?
I
And
don't-
I
I
gotta
don't- I
argue
don't
with
want-
my neighbors in order to defend township property. I don't understand that. I mean, what's the resolution of this?
I have a meeting tomorrow morning in Town Hall, Mr. Gines, just so we can move this along. Are you available anytime tomorrow morning, let's say after our other session? Maybe we just get, let's get it
Yeah.
done. Let's get it done. Let's have the discussion.
I'm available after 10:30.
So we're together at 9:30, correct? Yes.
For what?
People from
There is some major issues over here that we gotta discuss.
9:30, that's
Oh,
tomorrow.
okay, yeah.
10:30, tomorrow morning,
So,
Town Hall.
10:30
Is that
tomorrow
agree?
morning.
Can I
Yeah, that's
say
fine.
that?
Yeah, that's fine.
And I shall send some of these papers to the general counsel, is okay?
By
If she gets a copy of this?
all means, sir.
Okay. Very good, thank you. That was very short. Thank you very much.
See, and they say
10:30 tomorrow morning.
government moves slowly.
10:30 tomorrow AM. Don't forget that we are neighbors over here. I'm
I-
fighting with my neighbors over here. I shouldn't be doing this.
That's why we'll see you tomorrow
I
at
shouldn't be doing
10:30.
this.
10:30.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Well, that's good. Got so excited.
We don't
I
have
don't
to pay
want you
for
guys to know
recycling.
what's going on.
Well, I gotta tell you, you gotta look. Jerry, thank you. Get it over. We have, the homework is coming. I told you, you agreed to
Good evening, council.
For you-
Albert,
Okay, I just
Albert
want to make sure you do
Moreau.
this right.
I said, good evening, council.
Go ahead, Mr. Ball.
Couple things. First
Your
of all-
address, please?
1721 Ramapo Way.
Thank you.
Couple things. Is this better?
Sounds great.
This better? Okay. Few things. First of all, having the business meeting and the conference meeting on the same day is making for a long day for us in the cheap seats. Is there anything we can do to go back to having one meeting one Tuesday, another meeting 2 Tuesdays away, so that more of us can stick
I've explained
around?
this every year, but I'm going to allow, Mr. James's.
The reason for that is twofold. One, the Thanksgiving holiday is 1 week of the year, and a week prior to that is the League of Municipalities Conference, where typically speaking, all council members attend, and department heads and staff for CEU for open agreement. So there's really 2 weeks there in this month that are essentially kind of taken away from holiday review.
All right.
And elections.
And election
and
day is
elections.
obviously another week.
So this is unique just for November?
Yes.
And the summer, from what I understand.
Okay. All right.
But it's long on us, too.
I understand, and if you have an executive session after this, you might be seeing the sun come up when you're getting home.
Don't tempt some people here.
I know.
There's nothing that would prevent us, though, Mayor, when we discuss this in the reorganization, from scheduling these on a different day of the week for
I
the
think
month.
that would be approved.
Yeah, that would be fine
It's-
too, I
it's-
think, for
it's-
some of us.
Yes,
Um,
thank you.
Okay, so that's one item. The other one, I know you're gonna be talking about the Parker property. And you may wanna broach the subject, are there any other properties in the area that they could look at that would suit their needs in lieu of turning over a piece of property in our city, it's our town, that may cause some hard feelings? There is one very close to here. It's already existing. It has medical facilities. It has restaurant, cooking facilities, and I believe it's up for sale or trying to gotten rid of, and that's Runnels.
I can't comment on that.
I'm just saying,
I'm
I'm just
unaware
saying
that it's
that
for
was a subject, that was an item that you might want to bring up with them, because that may suit their needs. The county's trying to get rid of it. It's not far from here in the first place. It's a great setting on top of the mountain, probably the highest point in Union County. And it has the nursing staff and all is all there. Some of the administrative staff is all there. Once they get rid of some of the political folks, it'd probably be a lot more cost effective. So that
Just based on what their needs are, I will tell you, Mr. Mueller, because I used to be on the board management over at Runnels, that would have to facilitate what these gentlemen are proposing, that would have to be a knockdown and rebuilt. There's no way, some things you're gonna have to trust me on. I've been through that hospital. I've been fortunate to have helped people get admitted during some stressful times they've had. You're not getting 240 or 180 units in that building, not with the model that's being so suggested. But I would encourage them, whatever happens today, to reach out to the county.
or at least investigate the option,
That's why I agreed with you.
you know.
I'm
'cause-
just giving you from personal, practical experience,
talking-
having lived there.
And I'm talking from personal experience
are,
of
we
living
both
there
are.
as well.
We usually do.
For a few years. But okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Mueller, as always, thank you, seriously.
Gabe Sparrow, 17 Manitou Way. Mayor, are you taking comments on the proposed ordinance now, or are you going to have a public
Absolutely.
discussion when
This
it's
is
introduced?
public comment, Mr. Spiro.
Public comments, I'm part of the public.
Yeah,
I've been part of the Scotch
you were a
Plains,
mayor of this wonderful community as well.
that's the material, but
So, Your Honor, please speak freely.
I have been a resident of Scotch Plains for over 42 years, and I've seen the growth of Scotch Plains. And I know a lot of the people in Scotch Plains, and not to contradict Deputy Mayor Gellinella, but nowhere have I heard people saying, we need an assisted facility in Scotch Plains. I mean, we're surrounded with facilities. We have facilities in Clark, on 22, in Westfield. If somebody wants to stay in the area in a assisted living facility, they have it right here. Now, the only comment, I think, Deputy Mayor, that you made in favor of this application was that it will generate some money. Well, it doesn't generate money for the town. We only get 17% the county will grab 20% immediately. So that's 20% less that we're getting. So when you think of it, I mean, it's ludicrous to think that we want to do this to make a couple of bucks. Is there a real necessity in the town? Do the town people really feel there is a need for this? And from what I asked previously, no one surveyed or went out and got opinions from the people adjacent to the property on how they felt about it. I have talked to a lot of people are definitely not in favor of this. Not only that, but from what I understand, in my case too, we didn't even know this was coming up. Because I think if there had been a lot more, and there should be a lot more publicity on this kind of an application, so you get more input from the town people. And I think had there been more publicity, they'd be standing out in the hall in opposition to this. That's all I want to say. There's no need for it. We don't want it. It doesn't look right in that location in the residential facility. And I implore each one of you, you too, Mrs. Gellinella, vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Spirit.
Carolyn Perkins, 861 Westfield Road in Scotch Plains. I wanted to bring up a number of issues, and it has to do with the shelter group, but it also has to do with Terry Lou Zoo. Terry Lou Zoo has been vacant for about 20 years. It's been an eyesore. 20 years ago, they wanted to put assisted living there, and they couldn't because it's a park, okay? So I don't know what we're going to do with that. You talk about the shelter group and it not being needed here. I kind of beg to differ with you. I've been a geriatric nurse most of my nursing career, other than working up at Overlook and Intensive Care. I think you really need to talk to some of the older people who live here, who were born here, and who grew up here, because I can't think of a nicer place for them to be but in a place like the shelter group. I can see that facility having children from Terrell Junior High School going there and adopting a grandparent, teaching them how to use a cell phone, going and reading to them, writing letters to them. A grandchild can do a lot for the older person, okay? I don't know how you're going to get this through, but I don't think it's a negative thing. And maybe you need to talk to a lot of the residents here who grew up here. You were born here, you worked here, you're now retired. Do you want to go to Westfield? Do you want to go on 22 to Brighton Gardens? Or would you rather be in your own little neighborhood where your church is and where you've played cards with people in your neighborhood and not have to drive too far? You mentioned charging the people for parking, and I would be against that. Now I'm going to make a suggestion and just opening it up. Snuffy's now rents out part of their building to a church, the Oasis Church. Snuffy's has a huge parking lot which is not used too much during the day, except maybe on weekends and for weddings and stuff like that. They owe our town over $250,000 in back taxes and in sewer. Now, we could use some of that money, or they could maybe sell a permit for people to park there. Our town could also put up signs saying on Park Avenue and on Mountain Avenue, because people catch the bus there by the TD Bank, etc., 2-hour parking limited. That's it. And then you ticket them if they've been there longer than 2 hours. The leaf pickup, about 30 years ago, a young girl was physically maimed, seriously, when she was near the street and they vacuumed part of her purse or something got caught. I live on Westfield Road. Yes, it's a safety issue. Not so much because we have a wide street, but Westfield Road floods all the time on Sun Valley Way. They've had to put barricades up. I've actually have pictures of my children kayaking in front of our house, okay? So the leaves are a problem, and if they're not picked up, then they block all of the drains. So maybe scheduling in every odd house number, or like someone said, the side of the street, do one side one day, 1 week, and the other side another week or something. You could get it done that way. We do our recycling every 2 weeks, north side, south side, north side. It just means being a little bit more diligent. But you've got Brunner School, you've got the high school, you've got the kids going to St. Bart's, you've got the kids going to Evergreen. They're all on Westfield Road, and you've got the school buses going back and forth. That's a road that really needs to have kind of primary attention. Okay, that's all I have to say. Good luck to you, because I know your job is not easy.
Thank you, thank you.
Hi, good evening. Matt McTammany, 1140 Maple Hill Road. Just want to read an email. My parents, Bob and Amelia McTammany, live across the street, 1390 Tower Road. Just a note from my dad. Matt, I want to oppose this if it's not too late. Do you know the status? They're on the West Coast, they're unable to attend tonight. This was in a reply to the patch email that went out today. My mom's lived in Scotch Plains since the Eisenhower administration. My parents moved in 1986. They're both very much against this. They don't want to live in, this is not a type of facility that they want. Obviously I'm speaking from somebody that's lived on the street as well. If I have 4 acres and I have a front and a back entrance, is this going to allow me to come to the in front of you guys in the future and ask for 60 units? How tall? I'm asking a hypothetical because I might find myself in this position in the future. Also, how high is this going to be? Is this higher than any of the other structures in town? And I just really think you do have to consider just the burden on traffic, the attractive nuisance that this would create with regards to rental or property values in the area. You can only imagine. I saw what the one over in Clark looks like. This is a different town. We don't want to talk about those towns. We're talking about Scotch Plains. But if we're going to look at that as a benchmark for the size of the property, it's very, very intrusive.
The facility in Clark is not the same. I've spoken to the mayor.
I was going to ask what the size of the...
But I've spoken to the mayor. We are, just for a point of reference, I've had conversations with the mayor of Clark just to make sure, because are you talking about the facility?
I'm just concerned.
No, I just want to make sure you understand that we are discussing apples and oranges.
Of course, we're looking at a different township's property.
That is not the same type of facility that we are talking about here today. I did double check with the mayor because I had some questions about why we would have 2 located so close together.
And then what about, is there a property on South Avenue as well for assisted living up in Fanwood? Yes. There is one there as well, next to the Fanwood. Okay, I was just curious about that. And also, I'm kind of communicating with my dad. He did say to me nobody knocked on his door with regards to this application. When you want to talk about attractive nuisances and property values, the applicant didn't knock on anybody's door. But again, my question is, if I got 4 acres, does that mean I can build 60 units?
These are questions that we were going to discuss with the
I don't believe that's, no, I think the
And if I
answer
have
to
a
that
front
is,
and
no,
a
not,
back
not,
exit,
in-
does
not,
that
in-
assist
not,
something in the
not in
future
an
with me?
R1 zone. I think I'm safe in saying that. Am I correct or incorrect?
Yes, this ordinance would not permit the scenario that you are discussing.
So I would need to gather 10 acres. So maybe if there was a neighbor or something like that at property,
Yes,
I would
that's
be able
correct.
to.
That's correct. The
So
answer
then
to your
something like
question,
that.
yes.
So there is a possibility then. Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
very much for your comments. Whoops.
Ilse Heimer, 1380 Trail Road, Scotch Plains. I wasn't going to mention this, but I will because of our previous speaker. Now, if I have trouble expressing myself, it's because I'm foreign born, so bear with me. This is the LL Shelter Group came to me on February 22nd, 2011, wanted to buy my property. All I have is 2.5 acres. So if you'd like to read the letter, I have it here. I said no. Also, I don't know if anybody read this, but on the front page of the Courier, on November 2nd, and this is the article, I made a copy of it. I gave a copy to the manager, and I said, if this goes through, Scotch Plains will have a lot of suits against them. The headline is, Housing Project Denial Upheld. 222 units proposed in Branchburg. They were going to develop these on Route 22 along North Branch. In 2009, they filed an application to build 292 units on 31.79 acres. 59 would be affordable housing, and it's zoned 1-2, which means it allows offices, research labs, warehouses, and agricultural uses. But they didn't want it. After 11 public hearings between July 2010 and July 2011 for a use variance was denied. Reasons: not inherently beneficial and did not meet the positive criteria, which is stated in the MLUL, the Municipal Land Use Book. Also, Bo Vastine said it was spot zoning. So that is illegal to begin with. Now, there's something else here I want to read. Michael Sullivan, the Board of Adjustment professional planner, testified that 292 unit development would have a dramatic effect on the character of North Branch, and that its density was out of whack with the area. They even threw in these low-cost housing to sweeten the deal, and it was still denied. It went to the appellate court and they denied it. Now, if you approve this, going to the Board of Adjustment or the Planning Board, this is a case in point which clearly says they can't do this 240 units on only 10.8 acres. It's ridiculous. I try to get out of my driveway, I'm across the street. I try to get out of my driveway at 8:30. It was impossible. When the school buses come, it's impossible. They never said how many parking lots they have. There have to be at least 240 plus cars. Where are they going to park? And I heard somebody told me that Mr. Sullivan from the rescue squad saw one of their developments and said it's really, really large. They never show the parking lots. Now, with this case, which is a case on point, and it's a current case, and it went to the appellate court, there will be cases within that case that are good law. Because I have a 1995 Municipal Land Use Book, and all those cases are outdated, so I couldn't recite them. And I didn't call them or get a copy of this, but I'm sure you must have read it in the Law Journal. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Heinemeyer.
Good evening. I'm Rachel Barish. I live at 1 Colonial Drive in Scotch Plains. My family and I moved here 13 years ago with a couple thoughts. One, it's a great place, very diverse community to raise our family. And two, when we decided to move out and eventually send our children to college, we thought our home would be an ideal investment that we'd be able to make money from and help fund my children's college educations. I feel that this is putting that whole plan at risk. I also feel this was really secretive. At 1 Colonial Drive, we have mostly original owners and mostly elderly owners. I know that we've talked a little bit here about some of the elderly and how they feel. I feel I can speak for some of my neighbors that they're very distraught. They're very upset. We've already had a group home move into 1 Colonial without our consent, without our discussion, and kind of done in secret. When the notes came through later, Freedom of Act, we saw that everybody here, not everybody here, but some of you here, agreed to it and told us to our faces, you knew nothing about it. I feel this is a similar situation where you're looking to capitalize on secretive behavior. I don't know who's benefiting. I don't know who's getting money back. I'm not. I don't feel my community is.
Miss, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think, that's really not appropriate to say that we're here today. You've heard my colleagues say, and made a point of saying we want to vet this. We had great discussion the last time. I don't think
I've
you should
already
assume that.
I've had an issue
No,
already.
please allow, I'll let you, but I just say,
Absolutely, sir.
I don't want you to address the council's thinking that, that there's deals that are going on here. I think that's really inappropriate.
Okay.
I think your concerns that you shared with us are quite, we
Well,
are
then
concerned.
what's the motivation to do
No.
this?
Well, no, we're here having that discussion today, and I think you'll hear more from the council. But please, I don't want to stop you from continuing your thought process, but let's not make some characterizations that we're doing something underhanded and undermining.
Perhaps I just
don't want you
have
to
a
leave that
political-
impression.
feel there's a political agenda
I think Councilman
here.
Marcus before was very specific about shutting down discussion when he felt that we weren't vetting it properly. So please continue.
I apologize. I
No,
just
no,
feel
that's
again
okay.
because
Listen,
I had an
I
issue
make that-
already.
I make those mistakes too, so
All right.
let's
I just again
continue.
because I within the past 2 years had an issue on my street where the character was drastically changed by an addition and without our consultation. I may be hypersensitive to something similar
That's
happening.
fair.
The other thing is I do have children that walk to Terrell Middle School. How is this going to affect them? There's going to be a lot of traffic coming in and out. I really feel like you need to be considering the walkers. I don't have busing. I'm less than 2 miles. You all know the busing rules very well. And my children walk to school. How many cars are coming in and out of that driveway? Who's coming in and out during school hours? Who's near the school?
Thank
I'm
you. I
highly
appreciate that.
concerned. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, and I mean that. Thank you for coming out tonight.
Hi, I'm Robert Westerman. I live at 17 Allenby Lane. The only thing that I wanted to say is I know with the senior development, my grandparents are in their 70s, and I know it's this way with a lot of elderly people in my experience, that where they are in their lives, where they're living is pretty much where they want to stay. My grandparents are convinced that, they're never going to go to a nursing home, no matter how old they get. I don't know if anybody else has parents, in their 80s, 90s, they're, just as stubborn. Maybe it's the way they were brought up. But personally, my dad lives over in Rawway, and there's a assisted living facility on one of the roads over there, and it at first made traffic absolutely terrible because they had it so that it was commuting. You would drive your parents there, or they would drive themselves there, and there was no traffic light, so people trying to make a left into it would back up traffic on the one side of the street for miles. I'm just wondering, is there going to be, it's rhetorical at the moment, but is there going to be some way to, help with the traffic? And if there is, what's that going to be? Is it going to be a traffic light? Is it going to be, during, let's say 7 to 9 when people are commuting to work? Is there going to be a police officer stationed there to guide traffic, and from like 4 to 7 or 4 to 6? Is there going to be one there to help it out again?
I don't think we have we certainly don't have the answers.
Oh, no,
those are all.
and I was just
you
proposing
can
them
go
as
on and
rhetorical.
we could ask you
Yeah.
a lot of rhetorical questions, but to be continued on all of those fronts if this
I figured
project
as
was
much.
to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, and personally, I kind of think that, as someone said before, a lot of people, they grew up here, they were born here, they don't want to leave. I lived in Avenel, like 20 minutes away for pretty much my whole life, and everything was on top of one another. You could spit and hit the next house, and when we moved here, everything was spaced out, and I feel like this is starting to take away from that feeling. Like, I love moving, when I moved out here, with my mom and my sister and everybody, that everything was spread out, and it was really nice, and for the most part the roads were less congested and all that, and I just feel like that starts to, that this is going to start taking away from that.
Thank you for your comments.
Hi, Joseph Banker, 5 Tempe Court.
I didn't hear that. Could you repeat yourself?
Joseph Banker, 5 Tempe Court.
Well, thank you.
Okay. Couple things. I live really close to where this proposal for the Parker property is. How's that? Gotcha. First, I love old people. They're so cute. I have a 96-year-old grandmother. Love her. She lives in an assisted living and in a facility and loves it. I think it's a great thing. However, I really think that this proposal sucks. The whole concept. No, I mean.
That's okay.
Stinks. Is that better? No. It really. If you've tried to make a left out of my street at 7:45 in the morning, you can't. You want to add another 150 workers, or even if there's 50 more workers who have to come to work at that time, that's stupid. You're going to tax our resources by having our police then there to go and have to deal with more traffic. They can't even. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to offend the crossing guards, but I could do a better job. So maybe we need to
You've
just.
done that now.
Yeah. No, I mean, but really, the traffic flow stinks in the morning. I didn't say sucks.
Yes.
A couple other things that I was thinking about. How tall are these buildings going to be? Do our fire trucks have ladders that are tall enough to reach these, or do we need to buy new trucks? Old people, are they going to be driving? Because that scares me. My grandmother doesn't drive at 96, and I know they have licenses and stuff like that, but we all know that right next to a school, the odds of an old person hitting a kid are a lot higher because there's a lot more kids and a lot more old people in really close proximity. So I say old people driving should be kept further away.
Are we suggesting that we ban old people
let's see.
from the town? Or where are we going with
And the other, no, really more technically, my question was, is this more of a zoning question? Because this is the planning board, is that correct? So
that's
wouldn't this have to go before zoning to say, hey, we want to use this piece of property for a different use than it was zoned for?
The applicant has the right to come before the council, and the council can take actions that will keep it at council by going through the planning board, or it can insist that it go back and recommend it. So we haven't discussed that. So.
Okay.
But so your point, we understand your question.
Right. I mean, 10 acres, we could put 10 homes on them in the acre zone
This is
lot,
absolutely
collect some nice tax from that, get some nice, big, beautiful homes, and maintain the appearance of the south side of Scotch Plains. The one thing I was reading about getting a variance, because I'm no lawyer, the owner cannot realize, no, that was another one.
Okay.
Save that. But this one was about changing the dynamic of the area, which this clearly will do. Undesirable change be produced in the character of the neighborhood. Clearly, we're not, I mean, we don't have buildings, we don't have apartments, we have acre zoned property. My neighbor has 2 horses. That's really nice. I like that. We're zoned, we can have horses. We don't have I'm not going to open up a prison on my acre unless I hear it's lucrative. I mean, maybe I should ask to open a prison. You get the point?
Next.
This isn't zoned for it, and it really isn't the use that we've lived here for all these years, and we don't expect to see something like this built adjacent to our homes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, serious, thank you for coming up.
Alexander Smith, 1451 Martine Avenue, just for the cameras this time. Again, I think the council should consider the master plan, what these, what the zoning has been in the area. And as been mentioned, there's a lot of traffic on Martine and Terrell. And, the implications are that if you approve this, will it open it up to other people coming and ask for other uses? I think it's very important that the zoning laws, rules be maintained. And if people want a variance, let them go ask for a variance, as opposed to coming to the town council asking for a complete change in how the zoning is on.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Council. My name is Patel Misriya.
Please speak a little louder, if you would be so kind.
Good evening, Council. My name is Patel Nisriya. I'm at 10 Stoneleigh Drive, just within a 1 mile of this proposed project. The first time I heard was 2 days ago when one of these gentlemen, I think that, sorry. The first time I heard this project is one of the gentlemen, I think, of course, from mayor, ex-mayor walked in from, somebody walked around the neighborhood and told us that, listen, this is the project going on. 300 or 260 apartments right next door within 1 mile. I'm sure that, I think managers say that they did the traffic study. Did you say they did the traffic study on this?
There was a preliminary traffic study that's been submitted to the township council.
Is it positive? Is it? I'm sure. I'm an engineer. I'm sure it's tremendous traffic impact on this. Right now, out of Colonia Drive, out of Stonely Drive, a lot of cross traffic, you can't get out left turn in a rush hour because of school, because of other facilities around. And in a rush hour, the traffic backs up from Martin and Raritan and all the way to the Cooper. Some backs up. You put this facility is over 300 car going more and less, okay? Right now, Parker has about, 20, 30 cars a day going in and out, but it's gonna be tremendous traffic. There's gonna be tremendous, I guess 300, 400 employee gonna work there. That's 300 car going in there and out, right?
Well, there was a traffic study done. I'm sure that'll be discussed further.
Yeah. Is there a stormwater drain study done? Because
all of every question you're asking, you know.
See, I don't know if this project is good for me or not, but I just moved in 4 years ago. I'm not a lifelong resident of Scotch Plain. I moved in thinking it's a good neighborhood, you know, and I want to preserve it that way. My kids like it. My kids went to the school right across there, both the kids, and we like neighborhood. That's why we moved. But I just want to make sure that they did all the studies and everything positive, so it does not impact me.
Thank you.
You know?
No, you're very valid points.
Yes. The other thing I want to know, I think, regarding the leaves, the liability is both way. I seen liability putting a bag. I seen bags get rolled in if they don't pick up on a non-timely manner, and then it creates accident. So either way, its liability is there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening, Ted Sparrow, 1146 Maple Hill Road. You guys kind of are aware of my comments from the last couple of meetings. I got up here and spoke, but one other thing that I really want to reiterate that's kind of struck a chord with me at the last meeting is when the head of the rescue squad got up, and he said that it would actually tax the rescue squad because a facility this size with additional elderly people would really need more calls, more usage towards the rescue squad, which is, it's a volunteer organization, and they struggle to get volunteers, and now you're going to have to expand their capacity. But the thing I really want to mention is it really fair to the rest of the townspeople that you have a rescue squad of volunteers, and yet now they get multiple calls on a let's say a weekend evening or whatever, and someone's having a heart attack and they have a call. What is the staffing? Can they support that? And I think that's an issue that really is an important one that I think needs to be addressed, especially after we heard the gentleman from the rescue squad explaining how it would tax the rescue squad itself. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and I were having a conversation, and I just did want to say one thing before we decide tonight about whether or not we're going to keep it on the agenda, take it off the agenda. This is the only point that I just would like to make in response to a lot of the questions and a lot of the concerns that have been raised tonight. A lot of the same questions and concerns have been raised at the past 5 meetings where it was discussed, and I'm hearing that there's a concern that we've discussed this in secret. I know that there have been articles in the various news outlets, and as I said, it's been discussed at 5 public meetings. So my only thought is this. Something else, but I don't know how to put this information out into the public any better than we already have. Those of you who have served on the council longer than I have can tell me if there's a different issue that we've had coming before us on 5 different occasions. And I'm not saying that that's not necessarily it's not a bad thing to continue the discussion, but Mayor, the one point that I wanted to make is the questions are raised as if they are new questions, and they've already been discussed at length. So do we possibly call yet another public meeting where we publicize in many other additional ways and people can come and ask these questions? I don't know what the solution is. I just don't know how to disseminate the information other than the ways that we already have. that was just the one point I wanted to make, because issues like the rescue squad, they first came up in, I believe, June, when we first, and at every subsequent meeting, it's very nice to see new faces in the audience, but they're asking the same questions, and the answers don't necessarily change. So,
Yeah, I think.
no, I hear your point. I just wanted to make sure that I just wanted to finish this one point. For those, Mayor, I understand people feel very concerned about protecting their family and protecting their property values. Believe me, I understand that 100%. But it does not necessarily paint a positive light on the council when there's an allegation that these things have been happening in secret. So I just wanted to make sure that we just really put out there that this has been discussed at 5 public meetings.
I think you're right to do such, because just as I tried to clarify for that lady, it is not our intention to do anything secretive here. I don't think we heard anything new today. I will agree with you that what we've heard in the last sessions. I don't believe there is a better way to vet this other than the way we have done such. And I kind of feel that it's time for everybody's sake to Deputy Mayor, I think we need to bring this forward, and we have to satisfy our own personal issues with this, and then make a decision. I don't think we want to come back here and do this again and again and again. I can't imagine, other than getting more information, which I think is still forthcoming, how that would benefit, any of us. So, if I may, can we just please indulge me and allow me to just bring this forward, Councilman, so we can have a discussion about it, because we're not getting there.
No.
I want to have a discussion before the discussion.
No. I wanted to address the group home that the resident brought up. I was on the council at that time, and the issue was brought before us, and there was a lot of concern. We were advised by council that we could not legally prevent the group home. Okay, I just want to make sure that.
No, and I
Okay.
think,
Yeah.
Councilman, I agree. That's why I said, the lady's comments were very appropriate. I just didn't want to give the impression, just like the Deputy Mayor did, that we really haven't tried to vet this thing. I think we all have some very definite opinions, but let's put it out there right now, if we may. So, with that. Discussion on it? No, there is no discussion right now. Does there anybody else want to address the mic before I close the public comment section?
Yeah, my name is Romano Del Roy, and I live at 2100 Westfield Avenue. Of course, I'm pretty far away from Parker's property over there, but still, that project in there, I have yes and no, I'm in favor or against it. Somewhat, it told me that maybe it's good with it, but listen to other people over here, I don't think it's really that great. It was at one time, it was a newspaper that was being like 170 units. Now, before you know, it went up to 240, whatever. And the animal said, "Oh, we generated like a $700,000 in tax revenue." The rest of the public will have a little deduction in tax, but you have that thing in there. I don't think it's going to happen. Your tax still goes up, it doesn't matter what. So I don't think that we need to do $700,000 in tax revenue over there, because everybody getting increased just as well anyway. That's number one of it. And the number two is that like for a lot of people, I've been traveling every now and then up Terra Road. My wife was working at the high school, Terra Middle School for numbers of years, and she was told me for 25 years they went through hell. You even showed that it's not too many people over there, not too many cars were driving at that time. Now I heard that you put a building of that size in there, it's going to create a lot more traffic. Unless they have some analysis that they do traffic things or increase the size of the road, I don't think that will work. My thing is that either got to increase the size of the road or should limit the amount of units they can put in there. And that is set on the parking property. Then I have another comment as far as the parking, downtown parking. I've been heard a lot tonight about the parking downtown. If I remember correctly, I spoke pretty much to all of you about the parking. Why don't you build a new park over there? What the fire department have all kind of garbage in there on that piece of land over there. They could create their park for employees only. So there is about, gotta fit at least 30 cars in there.
That has been discussed, and it's something that it isn't under consideration for our employee park.
Okay, then even so, the meter is obsolete. If you told me you gotta put a meter in town, just forget it. Because already people don't come in Scotch Plains shopping. Now you put the meters on it?
Just to clarify that, and again, just to clarify, there hasn't been a decision there, but the idea is you don't have to penalize people coming into town by charging them for the first minute they park.
I've heard a lot about those parking situations over there. So, just make you aware that the parking meter, you gotta be awesome. Just forget it.
Okay.
Because if you guys doing that, then just forget about the downtown Scotch Plains. And it's a lot of other things you could do with the parking situation. And of course, then I have a question about the downtown improvement district over here. It's a lot of you probably be in favor for that, and I heard Mr. Councilman Weston over there, oh, well, what do we have? But there's no flake is going to bring a business. I don't think there's no flake to bring a business in town. And I don't think that anything else will bring a business in town either. Scotch Plains, it's a Scotch Plains what it is. Scotch Plains, you want to start thinking nice in Scotch Plains, you got to create, you people got to do it. You got to create a zoning. It's this what we want out of Scotch Plains, downtown, the business district. It's not going to happen tomorrow, it's going to happen in 5 years, maybe not even 10 years. But you people got to design a part for the downtown area. And there is part of that thing. That thing nobody think about it. Okay? I've been around it for a long time. I've been in this country, I've been in Scotch Plains for 40 some years. And I've been in business of my own for numbers of years, and I've traveled all over the country. It is things that could be done in town, but nobody think about it. Okay? Look from the stage house all the way back to those ugly condos that built the front of the street. Those lots are 200 feet long. And there's 9 houses over there. You can easily try to get a builder, like the people that want to build that complex over there. I just said, why don't you try to build something different over here in that area? Condemn those, not condemn it. Buy those houses at fair market, fair price, and build something over there. And behind the library over there, and even behind the parking lot, they started from Russell Funeral Home all the way up to Mountain Avenue, up to the cemetery. Make those houses part of the business district. Eliminate that the things and make that commercial place. It's a Zanat they want to sell for $5 million. It's the most beautiful piece of property is a Zanat over there. Get that to somebody to build something different.
Serrano, we have to be careful about keep getting stuff. There are people who like eminent domain too, and they just want to take over your buildings.
With all due respect, I've been telling a lot. Look, South of Bombrook what they did. Look at Garwood what they did. If they did it, we could have done it too. Who could do this? It's not problem to do it.
Absolutely, we're encouraged by that, and hopefully we'll be able to mirror some of their successes in the future as well.
See, that's why I'm saying when you're talking about the downtown of Scotch Plains, the downtown business district, you got to think ahead. Because right now, there's no flake, bring business to town, just forget about it. Or anything else. That's like bring business. Beside that, the intent of the SID, it was to bring in a new business and fill in the empty space. It did not happen. Did not happen. They told me they spent $40,000 on snowflake. It's just a nonsense. Throw the money away. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Romano, as always. Mr. Bill Royal, I apologize, Romano.
Gabe Sparrow, 17 Manitou. One last comment, Mayor. I understand Deputy Mayor John Allella's suggestion to put this off so you can get the word out there. We saw a bunch of people come to the mic tonight, and there's only one person in favor of the application. Everyone else was against it. I mean, you have already gotten a sense of the public, and to put this off would only be a delaying tactic, hoping some miracle was going to come up to get this thing approved.
Well, the mayor and I actually had a different conversation, which I believe once we closed the public session, we were going to share, but as a courtesy, we were allowing for public comment to continue, for people to
Thank you, I
continue.
appreciate the courtesy, thank you. But however, I don't know if there's any reason to
No,
postpone
I
this.
understand.
think
I
we all have
appreciate,
enough-
Mr. Spear, I absolutely appreciate your comment. I respect your
Thank
sentiment.
you.
Thank you.
Liz Mangan, 2055 Coles. Deputy Mayor, we've had meetings in here where we couldn't find enough room to hold the people out there. If you really want to find out how to get to the people, do a postcard mailing and tell the people there's a zoning problem in the town that needs to be addressed from the crowd of the people and from the people who live here. Believe me, we'll come out. Just the same way the library packed this room and previous situations have packed this room so that you couldn't find people all the way out on the steps. Because this is a situation that needs to be addressed by all, not just the few people here tonight.
Thank you very much for your comment.
Mr. Mayor, Richard Skolnick on behalf of Shelter. We've obviously heard the comments. We're going to formally withdraw the request tonight for the zone change. Tonight is not the night. I think you all know that we have endeavored to provide the information. We thought tonight was going to be a forum to talk in detail about the traffic study that we submitted. We thought tonight would be to talk about the conversations that we have already had with the ambulance squad. We thought tonight was going to be to talk about the police department's opinion on this, but this has evolved and it is clear we need to do more community outreach on this project. It is clear we need to educate the community more on why a zone change makes sense and on the legal ramifications on why an application at the Board of Adjustment, at least in our opinion, is not the appropriate forum. We need to get out in the community. I don't have the answer tonight on how we're going to do that. It's the fourth time, I think, or fifth time that we're here. My client is going to have to go back and rethink in light of these comments. There has been a lot of support, frankly, that we've heard as well for this project. We obviously think it's an excellent project. The traffic, if you really take the time and look at it, and we submitted a report, is incredibly low compared to what's out there already. There is a traffic issue out there. If you look at the report, and I encourage you, it's on file, take a look at it. The traffic that's going to be produced is infinitesimal compared to what's going on. Nobody's going to know. But all that being said,
I'm not going to dissuade you from withdrawing your request tonight. But I do want to clarify. This decision is not being made solely on the basis of traffic. I mean, people raised a lot of other concerns. So, whether you withdraw or not, you have. Okay, I don't know legally how. I mean, that's fine. Council, woman, okay. I guess, but we're still going to proceed with our meeting, and we're going, because I'm sure we all have our comments on this, and we're going to discuss this motion as it stands.
But is it, if they're withdrawing their application, with all due respect,
Well, but
can we just let them withdraw their application, and if they come before us to submit the...
I think they should get a sense of if there is a consensus amongst this council. I've heard from some people that they may believe that the proper place to go is to the Board of Adjustment, not to the council or the planning board. And the reason I'm raising this is, different to them. To say, I don't want them to withdraw, to go back and to send postcards out, and we're back here again, and there are people on this council who believe that this is not the right forum for this decision, that it ought to be elsewhere within the municipality, and that we shouldn't be circumventing, what some people believe.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I would like to say I agree with what you just said.
Okay, well, say this a new year. Just kidding, Councilman.
Well, as we all
But
know,
anyway,
I have no problem stating my
I think it's
opinion.
important to let everybody kind of weigh in there, because they have spent an inordinate amount of time here. We have vetted things like traffic. We haven't gotten answers on things like, if you were here the first time, I think a lot of you know my sentiment on much of this. But that said, Verone, if we move, can we read this ordinance as it is here? I mean,
Well-
I need some guidance.
Yes, well, Mayor, obviously, the petition, the applicant has the ability to withdraw, and he's withdrew the request from the council. The council can determine it still wants to go ahead. It may be a moot point because they've withdrawn.
I understand that, but
Can
I'd
I-
like to get on record some of the sentiment from these councils, men
I-
and women, so that we don't send people off, you know.
I
Without
just
knowing
want
the
to ask
sentiment.
this one question, and I have no problem, absolutely no problem going on record on any issue. But my question would be this: if there is now, let's say the petitioner decides to bring this before the Zoning Board of Adjustments, because we are the Township Council, if there is a discussion here tonight that would basically, let's say, be equivalent to indicating how the vote would go, how does,
Indicating
how the
you
vote
mean
would
the
go if it came
introduction.
before?
The introduction.
Yes.
Yes.
How does that, how does that potentially influence, jeopardize, impede the process if the applicant then goes before the Zoning Board of Adjustment?
It should not have an impact on it because it's a separate board, number one. Number two, it's not an application that's before you.
We had.
This is just an application for a zone change.
Just to give you an example, the mayor and I sat in an audience at a zoning board meeting when there was an application before it to approve a tattoo parlor on Route 22. And at the time, there was an attorney present who had provided counsel for the township for a number of years. And there was some suggestion that it would not behoove us to speak at the microphone. I'm sure you remember this conversation.
Right. I'm trying to remember.
Being
I
that
remember
we are, being that there could potentially be an appeal based on a decision made by the zoning board. So all I am asking is this: if we don't intend as a governing body to move forward with the ordinance, do we just then say, at this time, if the applicant doesn't come before us, then I don't understand why we're discussing an ordinance that's not being, that's all I'm asking.
Can I make this comment?
If anybody wants to know, I feel you can call me.
I think we're splitting hairs a little bit here. I think this is akin to saying if someone wants to make a marriage proposal, give them an answer, I mean, yes or no, not wait and you'll come back 6 months later. I think in fairness to the applicant, and I mean this sincerely, they should get an indication about how this town council feels about their application. And that may or may not influence their decision on how they're going to move forward. But I think we need to speak and we need to be heard. And I think many people wanted to hear us comment on it tonight. And I think that's probably just a cleaner way of doing it.
And I think we need some guidance how to do that, Council.
Again, you can act on the ordinance if that's what you want to do. I would be clear, everyone should be clear that this is not a specific application for anything other than a zone change. So you don't necessarily go into the merits of, what may come before the zoning board if that's where they go.
Right.
But certainly with respect to a zone change, in that ordinance before you, discretion's the better part of valor. I mean, just be a little.
So guide us here, okay? Because this is somewhat unprecedented, all right? Certainly a first to me since becoming mayor, all right? And I think it's the first since I've been on council for many, many a year. So I'm going to ask again. Do I ask Ms. Lucina to read the ordinance? And
If the council is going to entertain the ordinance, despite the fact that it's been withdrawn, the reason for it has been withdrawn by the applicant, then Ms. Lucina would read the ordinance. You would need a motion to introduce in a second, and then you can have your discussion. and then you would have a vote on the introduction.
And we can comment
You
as to
can
what we think might be appropriate.
You can, yes, and what, all I would suggest is that you keep your comments to the ordinance per se, and not any details of whatever the applicant may be proposing with respect to this particular site.
I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're saying. I'm really trying hard to understand how to.
There was some concern raised as to whether or not anything you say here may impact if the applicant went before the zoning board for zoning. So all I'm suggesting is rather than, for example, I don't like this here at all, ever. I would never want to see it in this township, and I hope no board ever would approve something like this, because I don't think assisted living should be in the township. I would say keep your comments to the ordinance per se. I don't, or the thing that I've heard before, which is, I just don't think this is the appropriate forum. I don't want to entertain an ordinance change. If there's an application that's going to go before the zoning board, that's where it belongs.
So someone could make a motion to say that I think that this is the wrong forum, and that they move that it be moved to the zoning board.
Is it necessary to introduce the ordinance to do that?
No.
That's what I'm saying.
Somebody
So
makes a
it's not.
motion to remove it from the agenda, just like we do removing things from
Well,
the
I'm
consent
clear that's an
agenda.
option.
So but then we still have the opportunity to discuss the merits of removing it from the agenda, at
That's
which
what I was
point
trying to get to.
you could express your concerns or your support.
So that's.
So I would like to make a motion that we remove the
Right.
resolution.
213-14. It's an ordinance.
I'm sorry.
213-14.
So I would like to make a motion that we remove ordinance number 2013-14, an ordinance amending the land development ordinance of the Township of Scotch Plains from our agenda, and that it be tabled until further notice. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion?
I have some things that I would like to say, yes. Out of respect for the fact that this may now, in the future, appear before another governing body or come back before us, I will keep my comments very brief. What I will say is this. Equal to a minimum of 2 times the number of people who came out tonight against this project, I have been spoken to by people who felt that this was beneficial to the township. I have heard comments like, how much does it lower taxes? It only lowers taxes a little bit. I would caution us moving forward, because this is just one of a few issues now that we've heard recently, where we're only lowering taxes a little bit. It only takes a little bit off of our taxes. The more we start to look at options that provide viable scenarios for either increased revenue for the township or decreased expenses for the township, the more we really start to close doors that should remain open. I find it very unfortunate that there are members of the public who felt that they were not given ample notice. I would encourage people, and I know it is extremely difficult. We have lives where we're working, in some cases, more than one job. We have multiple children. Whether or not you think there's an item on an agenda for the council that interests you personally, every decision that is made in your township has the potential to have an impact on you and on your family. Use this as a cautionary lesson. If you feel that the township is not providing avenues of information, please take the time to look at the agendas that are posted. Talk to your elected officials, attend meetings when you can, email us. I'll be happy to have conversations about the various decisions that are before us. We should never hear 5 months after an issue was first proposed that people are hearing about it for the first time. Clearly there's a breakdown in communication there, and I would encourage the public to become more involved in the process, period. I don't think a lot of guesswork is involved. Mayor, could you please ask the audience?
Please.
I don't think a lot of guesswork is
maintain a little
necessary
decorum, yeah.
to know how I feel about the project, but if you would like to speak to me personally about it, my email is on the township website. I'll be happy to call you and meet with you to discuss it. I just don't want to have the potential to interfere with a process that may continue in the future.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. May I have some other comments? Please.
I'll weigh in with a couple of things. You know, there were a number of questions I did have for the Shelter Development Group LLC. I guess at this point, given that they've withdrawn, we're not going to have that opportunity. Commenting very briefly on the specific ordinance proposal before us, I did have one item that I would comment on in particular as related to the definition of congregate care. Looking at that definition of congregate care, it said very loosely that it is something that includes independent and assisted living facilities. It said that the additional amenities, if you will, that would be required as part of this would be a commercial grade cooking and dining facility. Any other amenities, it said that could be included in there, like medical assistance, therapy, et cetera, were all just maybes. They weren't required. So my concern with this particular ordinance as it's drafted there is that it sounds to me like it's, well, one other point is it didn't say anything about the ratio between amount of assisted living versus amount of independent living units. So my concern there is I think you could build something that sounds like it fits this definition of congregate care pretty easily, and all it would really be would just be an age-restricted development, not really assisted living. In other words, okay, we have a commercial dining facility here for your like, but there's really nothing else in the way of assisted living, and now we've created this as an opportunity to put in those kinds of developments throughout the R1 zone. So that's one big concern I had as this ordinance is currently proposed.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me start my comments by saying this. A couple of months ago, I did not think that we would be where we are tonight. And there are a number of reasons for that. All along, it was my position that we needed to slow this process down and take a good, hard look at what was being proposed. All along, it was my position that we needed to do whatever we could to fully inform the public of the nature of this proposed application. I've said that before on every land use application that has come before this council, because I think when we have to deal with issues involving land use that will affect this community for the long term, that is not something that you look at casually and that you rush through, whether you like the idea or whether you don't. We have made attempts to inform the public, to get this application publicized over the last several months. And I felt that that was extremely important to do. In fact, at the last meeting, we had a televised meeting. It was requested that, well, let me restate that. We had the shelter group come in at a non-televised meeting in early October. And because it was a non-televised meeting, I, for one, felt very strongly that that would not be sufficient, and that when you have an application of this magnitude and of this significance to our township, that it would be necessary to have this applicant come back before us and speak and make a presentation at a televised meeting. So I think it's extremely important for the town council, whether it's this council or any future council, to make every effort possible to publicize these types of applications fully and to strive to get as much feedback as you can from the residents of the town. Because it's extremely important that we hear how you feel about these types of applications. Now, having said that, I want to say to Mr. Skolnick, and I want to say to the shelter group, you're all good people. And your presentations, I think, have been informative. I think you've been forthcoming about your intentions. And I know you've gone to great lengths to try to convince the council to make the zoning change that you have proposed that we do. I understand how that feels. I understand particularly from a lawyer's position, Mr. Skolnick, what it is you're attempting to do, and I commend you very much for the way that you've conducted yourself before us. And to the shelter group and your company, my feelings about this application are no reflection upon your company or upon what you do or upon the nature of your business. My opinion about this application is solely based upon my role as a town councilman in Scotch Plains and what I think is best for the town, for the community, and in particular what I think is best for the surrounding area where you would propose to build this this facility. I thank Ms. Verone for her guidance on this, and I'm going to shorten my remarks because obviously, initially I felt that I had a lot more to say about the merits of the application and to make reference to the master plan. I don't know that I really need to do that. And I think based upon the guidance of Ms. Verone, maybe it's advisable that I don't. So I will say this. I want to thank the many people who have spoken to me about this application. And I respect your feelings about it, and I'm grateful for your feedback. And I encourage all of our residents to reach out to us on every issue that comes before us, but certainly on important issues like this. The best thing you can do is tell us how you feel, because I, for one, want to know. Based upon the guidance of Ms. Verone, I will simply say this. I don't think that this is the appropriate forum for this application. I think that the applicant has every right to go before the zoning board, and it's within their purview to do whatever they want to do. But I clearly do not believe that we should make a zoning change in this regard. I do not think it's in the town's interest. And as far as the merits of your application, again, I think the master plan speaks for itself. I certainly could elaborate on that, but it's been clear what the sentiment of the public has been on this issue, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm gratified that the town council has evolved on this issue, and that the momentum behind putting this issue through and approving it has turned around. So for those reasons, I do not think that this is the appropriate place for this application to be entertained, and where you go from there is certainly up to you.
Thank you, Councilman. Well, quite an evening. I want to thank you all for coming out as well, and for those who've been here at the past meetings, you know, for the input and the comment, which influences where I come out on this, clearly. I've said in the past meeting, as Councilman Marcus said, which wasn't televised, that this is God bless you, the largest concentration of development, I think, in the township's history. And clearly, it's going to have a significant impact on our community for many of the reasons that we heard today. I'm not going to belabor the point further than what you've already heard. It is but of my opinion that there's additional information that needs to be gotten, and I think that a better forum for that would be the Board of Adjustment and not this council. So if I'm sending a message, you know, I mean, that is my message. I don't think this council should be entertaining this ordinance and moving it on to the planning board. I think, you know, the venue, which is typically the case, and not that one can't come this route, it has been the zoning board, and I would, my sentiment is that's where it should be. So that's where I come out.
So there's a motion on the floor to remove this from the agenda.
All those in favor?
To table. Yes, yes.
So we need a second, and we need a roll call?
I think it was second.
It was second before. We need a roll call. May we please, Ms. Lucina, have a roll call?
Mrs. Giovanella?
Aye, to table.
I don't think we did.
Right?
Yes,
Do we need a
I don't
roll
think we
call
did.
or
Do we
not?
need a roll call?
Yes.
We're being told we need a roll call.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marcus?
Aye.
Mr. Baskin?
Aye.
Mayor Glover?
Aye. Okay. I'd like to get back to the business at hand.
Mayor.
Please. Can we?
Where's everybody going?
I was gonna do the, yeah, I was gonna just go ahead with the meeting.
Yeah, I was going to
Okay.
take this there. Okay,
Mayor,
that's all right?
I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the minutes, meeting of October
Wait,
1st.
I know we're getting ahead of ourselves. So how's this? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes, the meeting of October 1st, 2013 and October 15th, 2013.
Is there a second? Please, somebody
Second.
second it. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Gentlemen, let's focus on business at hand if we can. Communications consent agenda. Do I have a motion to move the communications consent agenda?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to move the communications consent agenda, the minutes of the following meetings, the Zoning Board of Adjustment dated July 2013 and September 19th, 2013.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Here we go. The manager's report. You're up.
Be brief because most of what I addressed,
You better not be brief. I want to stay here longer.
most of what I'm going to address is in the agenda items. You all should have received, you will be receiving that from Jerry.
Microphone.
Jerry, microphone. Can we buy a second microphone for that table?
I will make sure that
The one
happens.
that works.
Thank you.
From Giordano Halloran with respect to the Shakamaxian Golf Course, they are going to be proposing a 56-unit age-restricted residential community with associated site improvements. It's up to this council to hear that initially before it goes on to the planning board. I'm going to be trying to set a hearing, working with their professionals, probably in January, I think would make the most sense. And then you'll be hearing their presentation. We'll go from there. If Judy wants to add to that, please go.
This is just part of the redevelopment agreement. As you recall, the Shakamaxon was before you, and we entered into a redevelopment agreement, and before they can go to the planning board with their plans, they have to present their concept to the council, and the council gets to make comments on that concept plan that they intend to propose to the planning board.
Thank you. Mr. Chimes, what else?
Just referring to something Councilman Beckerman made mention of recently that you're going to probably be hearing about soon, the Resolve House that we own This is in some really serious need of repairs. One of the people from over there contacted Mr. Beckerman. Mr. Beckerman contacted me. I sent out our guys over there. We're working on cost estimates. So we do have a responsibility, obviously, being our property, so you will be seeing something forthcoming, and with respect to that.
One of the things that I had asked the previous manager for, because that is our building, and the parking spots are in our lot, is just an itemization, or I guess maybe an explanation of what services Resolve provides to the community members, and at what cost, or any cost are associated with that. It really just as a sense of education for me. All right, thank you.
I'll reach out to them and get that. Next meeting in December, I will have the final numbers for both property and casualty and health insurance renewals. They do look positive on both ends. I'll be getting my final numbers for the health insurance tomorrow morning. I have a meeting at 11 o'clock with the brokers, but we will have that for a final presentation. They'll be here to answer any questions you have, and we'll be moving forward with both of those.
Can I ask a question on this? And I'm sorry, because as we've discussed in the past, there's a lot of paper. Is council getting a copy of the RFPs as they go out?
Typically for this, you wouldn't. It goes to the brokers. I work with it. And then when we get the final numbers, you would get those final numbers.
I would ask, just for my own purposes, it is something that I like to look at. Can I have a copy of that RFP? And in the future, any RFPs that are issued for the township,
Okay.
I would ask that they would be included in the packet, hopefully the packet that doesn't exist much longer.
Yes, that's my next topic. That
Okay.
the RFP for health, just so and I'll send everything we have, is more of just a letter to the company saying,
Okay.
here's our plan, do you want to bid on it? So it's not like a traditional one like this.
No, I understand.
So just so you're aware. So that will look very unlike a typical RFP. But yes, I will get you all the other RFPs, including that.
Thank you.
Bonnie and I, with respect to paperless agenda, actually backing up to my conference in Boston, as I referenced a couple of meetings ago, I met with various IT vendors who do these type of things with paperless agendas and kind of moving governments into the high-tech arena. I selected one just based on what I felt was in the best needs of our municipality, and Bonnie was in there on the initial conference call meeting I had with the vendor, and we talked about various things with respect to tablets, iPads, getting the agendas all online, having department heads submit things via their back end with the documents, so we don't have a situation like we have where some of the things today we're missing as backup. So that's going to be something that we move forward with, and I just got to say, as a compliment to Bonnie, for about 6 years now, I've been doing this on a daily basis, and every time you try to do something with an upgrade that's technological, you almost, the first response you almost always get from that department, you can't do this because. You can't do this because. Everybody's afraid to make that change. So when we were done with the conference call, Bonnie was sitting there, and the first thing I said was, in my head, I'm saying, all right, how am I going to overcome, the can't because? And to her credit, first thing she said was, this is great, I want to do this. So,
Touche.
for
I knew we made the right decision.
For the first time in a very long time, I had a fellow government official say, yes, let's do this, this is awesome. I did attach a proposal that was, maybe you've had today. It's going to be scaled back a little bit because there's some portions of it I don't think we need, but we also have another webinar conference call tomorrow, Bonnie and I, and I'm hoping in December I roll it out to you as a final presentation, and sometime in January we can get rolling with this. All the money budgeted, or most of the upfront money, no, all of the upfront money budgeted is going to come out of budgeted money that was budgeted in 2013. So it won't be new money that's raised. There will be some service fee costs, obviously, as the months go forward. So pretty excited about that, looking forward to that. And I anticipate, like I said, in December. And with that, that concludes everything, because everything else I have to say is going to be on the agenda.
So in a conversation that you and I had on Friday, and I just wanted to make sure that I vetted this out for the council, we did discuss some concerns that I had relating to the power failure on Friday that may not have affected the remainder of the council because you live on South Side. But on near my home, Brunner School, the high school, Evergreen, and I guess probably St. Bart's to a point would have been impacted at least by the fact that a substantial piece of Westfield Road was closed. And we had some conversation about working out possibly expediting notification to the superintendent and some other things that I know that Chief Mahoney was going to follow up on that with the superintendent. But just to lay out for you where my concerns came into play was that the call, while the power outage happened before 7 a.m., the call to delay the openings of 3 schools didn't come until 7:55. That is not an issue of the town council, I understand that. But we're all in this together, and if there's steps that we can take, because essentially you would have had parents put their kids on school buses or send their kids to school at the high school without knowing necessarily that that delay opening was going to occur. So, what can we do as far as improving communication? Not that anyone voiced a concern other than me, but Chief Mahoney was very good about meeting with me on a Friday afternoon with Mr. Jimes, and was going to follow up with the superintendent on that. And I appreciate your time, and thank you both for that.
I didn't get an update, but he did. As you know, he met with the superintendent immediately after our meeting because he was going on some other issues. But they did talk about that. He said he would give me an update. So.
And then just the last piece from, unless you had something related to that power
Yes, I
issue?
do.
Okay.
We discussed it. I think it's regrettable that we didn't pick it up on our radio station. And
I shared that concern, Mayor, because we turned on the radio station.
yeah, that's how I found out we didn't, because people called me and said, why is it on the, we discussed it. You're going to take the appropriate action to make sure that doesn't happen. I mean, not that it won't happen again, but maybe to prevent, hopefully in a positive way, it not happening again.
As far as the evaluation tool for the, do we call them exclusionaries? What are the non-union or the employees that don't have a bargaining unit? Are they exclusionaries, unclassifieds?
Typically, usually unclassified and non-union employees.
Okay, so the one thing that I'm very much looking for, I had first asked the previous manager for this exact time last year, right after I was elected, was if we had an evaluation tool, how those evaluations were underway. To my knowledge, that tool does not exist. I know you've only been with us a short time, but I am interested in moving forward before we discuss the progression of salaries in a standardized evaluation tool. And I just want to make sure that that wasn't a private conversation between us, if the entire council is aware.
I have I've done employee evaluations in my past 2 municipalities. The last municipality, Vernon, didn't have one when I got there, so I instituted it, basically mirroring what I did in my prior community, and I intend to do the same thing here.
To my knowledge, it does not exist here and has not for a while.
I agree, it has not.
Okay. Thank you.
One last kind of lighter note of business. According to my employment agreement, I'm supposed to be a resident of Scotch Plains by November 1st. That has been completed, so I am officially a resident.
Touche. Yay. Okay. So reports of special committees. I know we have at least one report here, so I would like to get some things out, if I may. Do we have any reports of special committees? Anyone? I've got to make, so then please allow me to go, because I know I need to get this stuff. And I think you would agree, as a member of the committee. Want to talk about the Mayor's Gala? Okay, the Mayor's Gala would like to cordially invite all citizens of Scotch Plains and then some to the 2013 Mayor's Gala, which will take place on Friday, December 6th, 2013 at Chacamaxon Country Club. The event will run from 7 p.m. To midnight and serves as a way, most importantly, to honor our recognized volunteers and organizations while raising funds at the same time for those organizations. This year, the event will honor 2 local non-profit volunteer organizations. The Golden Ages, a senior citizen-based group that provides a social and informational outreach club for those that are 60 and over, as well as Jerseyland Community Center, which provides resources for our African American community, including an annual scholarship fund. Additionally, the night will honor 2 very special citizens, male and female, volunteers of the year, Ed Cesari and Grace Cherney. Throughout the night, this is where it gets fun. Throughout the night, there will be tricky tray auctions and a raffle which will be for 2 round-trip airline tickets on Continental Airlines to anywhere in the continental United States, as well as, I know, Jerry, you're excited about this one, 2 tickets to Saturday Night Live, the live broadcast, which takes place on 11:30, and I believe that's going to be on January 18th, is what I shared. Aren't you ready to go?
I love that show.
He loves that show.
Very talented.
And so will everybody. Now, if you're unable to join us this evening, we encourage you to purchase a raffle ticket. They are limited to 200, so your chances of winning, pretty good, not like Mega Millions. Cost of buying a raffle is $20. First prize, 2 airline tickets, Continental Airlines, any place in the United States. Second prize, some people might think it's the first prize, right, Mr. Gines? 2 tickets to Saturday Night Live, the 11:35 show.
I believe that's United Continental.
was gonna
United
say.
Continental. Oh, did I say? Yeah, listen,
Yeah.
you know, I still haven't accepted it anymore.
People might not be as excited to get free tickets
Well, you may
to
get those tickets to
an airline that
Continental.
doesn't
Thank
exist
you, man.
anymore.
Well, I got to tell you, well, today we learned that American and United, what was it, U.S. Air merged, so I'm still not fond of that airline, so maybe it's, who knows, subliminal. But anyway, we got the tickets, and I'm fond of United Airlines, new United Airlines. If you're interested in purchasing tickets, you can go to our Recreation Department office, as well as visiting our website, www.scotchplainsnj.gov, and clicking on the Community Pass login link. When registering, please select the 2013 Mayor's Gala. On behalf of the entire community and this council, we hope to see you there, which will promise to be really a fun event. A lot of good tricky tray items, I understand. Now, on a more serious note, you know, it's said that a professional can receive no higher honor than to be recognized by one of his peers, or by his peers, or her peers. It is with this sentiment that I share with you all, with great pleasure, that our very own construction code manager, Bob LaCosta, was selected and sworn in recently by his peers as president of the New Jersey Building Officials. Quite an honor to be bestowed upon him. You know, our former municipal manager, Tom Atkins, once said of Bob that one of his best decisions he ever made, and I quote, was to appoint Bob as our zoning officer in 1992. And having had the opportunity to work with Bob for several years now, I would certainly agree. Bob, as many of you know, I know as this council knows, is a remarkable talent that we can and all should be proud of because of his professional accomplishments, but as well for his lifetime of service to this in commitment to our township, serving as a volunteer on countless number of committees that have made Scotch Plains a better town to call home. So to Bob LaCosta, if you're watching, on behalf of 23,500 citizens and my colleagues on the council, our manager, our counselor, thank you and well done. Congratulations. That's all, as far as comes, says all I have to say about that. Okay, any other comments, special reports from special committees, folks? No? Hearing none, it's time for the new business agenda, and I think we have a couple of things there that we may want to table.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table item number 7, which is resolution number 2013-181, resolution authorizing the execution of a contract with Street Fairs LLC for the 2014 Scotch Plains Day celebration. I have 2. Do we vote?
You have 13, you also do want to do.
Yeah,
right?
but do we have to do it separately?
We talked to the recreation director today, and myself, and we have no objection to table on number 7.
Okay, we spoke as
And
well.
we obviously spoke to Mayor.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. All right, so we have a motion, do we have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Necessary?
Aye.
Yes, aye. Please?
Aye.
Thank you. Getting late.
I'd
I
also
think you have a
like-
second one?
Yeah, I'd also like to make a motion to move item number 13, which is resolution number 2013-187, resolution authorizing the state contract purchase of a pavilion for Brookside Park in an amount not to exceed $43,892.50 to the other new business section of the agenda.
Certainly second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll take care of that, Deputy Mayor. Is there anything else that anyone would like, to discuss on the new business consent agenda? And then Jerry, if I may ask you just to take us through it as quickly as you would like.
Numbers 5 and 6, I'm sorry, number 5 is an authorization of canceling balances. These are old balances that have not been used in the past. The projects are from 2005 and 2006. They've either all been completed under budget, that money's going into capital surplus. That bond's no longer needed, we're going to close that out. Cancel and non-negotiable checks, that's a standard finance cleanup item. Number 8 and 9 are DPW items, both being purchased off state contract. I'm sorry, one of them is being off the state contract, the other one is being off the Middlesex Regional Education Cooperative, which we are a member of both of those. Both of those are replacing equipment, they're not additions to the fleet, and both pieces of equipment they're going to be replacing are going to be auctioned off as typical with all of our equipment. Resolution number 10, 213-184 is demolition of 2104 Westfield Road Circle. I guess this predates me, it's been going on for quite a while. The $12,500 bid to Mr. Cecchio was the second lowest bid. Prior to me getting here, they were reviewed and it was determined by, I guess, Judy in her office that the lowest bid had a material defect in the bid based on the failure to submit a stockholder disclosure form. That's not something that can be submitted after the fact. So it killed that bid, so we went to the second lowest bid. And,
Jerry, I know it's late, but maybe you or Judy could fill me in. What happens with that $12,500 now? Does that become a lien on that property? How does the town recoup that money ultimately?
Yes, once the work is completed, it has to be certified to the tax collector, and at that point, it becomes a lien on the property.
Thank you.
Right.
285 is a health violation with very high grass, weeds, vegetative growth. We're taking care of that. And same thing, with the cost of that, we would put on as a lien. And at some point when the property sells, we would get that money back. Certainly not money we count on because that could take who knows how long.
186? We up there?
There was an error with the tax assessor's office, so we're just correcting the settlement error amount. That's been decided from back in 2012. Apparently, it was just picked up now. Number 13, we've moved to the new business agenda. The current recycling contract ends in, number 14, ends in December 2013. The procurement laws allow us to continue that so long as we are actively in the process of going through the specifications. We are actively in the process of doing that, and that should be done very shortly. I don't anticipate using the entire 3 months. But in all likelihood, that's going to probably be the only bidder anyway. That comes in the next time we go out to bid. 15 and 16, we discussed in executive session recently for Riga Estates. The first one is to take care of a settlement for the last 6 or 7 years or so of unpaid municipal services agreement. Requirements, we feel, as I said in executive session, the $16,500 was a fair estimate. That was really the initial estimate that they were seeking from the beginning. And after analyzing the costs with Nancy from Judy's office and Joe Timko, we felt that was in our best interest to approve that. And again, we discussed that. Well, if you have any questions on that later, feel free to just pull me aside. We'll talk about it. 213-190. This is similar to that. This is authorizing the municipal services agreement with them. This is what we would be doing with every other qualified private community. It's been different in the past how I've seen it. Sometimes we haven't seen it in terms of a resolution. It's just been done administratively through the manager's office. In this case, because of the ongoing issues, we decided to put it in the form of a resolution. Going forward, we'll just determine how we do that, but typically these wouldn't be done. We have an obligation to pay it, and we're going to pay it. Transfer of funds, it's pretty self-explanatory. At the end of the year, it's pretty standard that we do that. Obviously we always try to budget properly before I get when you can. Before I got here, I noticed some things that really probably could be some room for improvement, and you'll notice a lot of the big amounts are in the Department of Public Works. I've been working very closely with Ray, who has been phenomenal in terms of really helping them out with their budget because, let's just say, it needs improvement. And we're gonna, going forward in 2014, you will see that improvement. But nonetheless, we had to transfer money to cover some of it. Some of the other stuff is smaller amounts that have to be done. And again, it's not a perfect science. We try to make it a perfect science, but it's pretty standard. These things are gonna happen.
Item number 18.
What's that?
I'm sorry for the late notice, but I wanted to move item number 18 to other new business as well.
184.
Alone again, naturally.
Let's do it officially. Is there a second?
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion to move item number 18 to other new business.
I'll second that.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So Jerry, that leaves you 19.
We're gonna do 18, okay, 19.
You can just request it.
This was distributed because I read it. This is resolution number 2000. Okay.
Okay, come on, come on, guys. It's
Okay.
11:15, all right? Not that you don't need, not that you need to be reminded, right?
For Resolution 213-184, just stepping back real quick, I just want to verify that you have the right information in your packet. That starts off with 2104 Westfield Road for...
Yeah.
The two of you chased everyone here out.
All right, we'll get back to that in a second. You moved 18?
Yeah, we can take, I mean, listen, I understand that it's late, but what's the deal with 184 before we confuse issues?
I think the cost, wasn't it? Oh, okay, good.
All right. But is it in the packet? Is it in the stuff we had on the desk today?
No, that wouldn't have been copied
Does it
today.
have to be?
If you have it, I'll copy it for everyone else.
Can we move on it still? We can move on it, right? Jerry's acknowledging we can move on
The
it.
key points of it are similar.
Good. Next.
We moved 18. Number 19, I know it's a small amount, but sometimes when the emergencies happen, it causes us to exceed the bid threshold over the aggregate of the entire year, which is why, although it is only $200, that $200 for that commodity puts you over the bid threshold.
Thank you.
So in good practice, that's why that's done. Cancellation of Hurricane Sandy appropriations, it's straightforward. We spent what we needed to spend, $185,000 not needed. 2013-195, that's a purchase of a 2014 Chevy Tahoe from the Cranford Co-op. That's a police department item that the council approved in 2013 capital budget. So the police are getting around to buying that now. And same thing with 2013-196. That was a 2013 bond. That is also, again, replacing a piece of equipment that will go to auction.
Okay. So we're through it, right? So with that, just again, motion to move the new business consent agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to move the new business consent agenda, items number...
Just a bunch of X and those we're taking out.
5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17,
19.
and 19 through 22.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Ms. Lucina, please call the roll.
She's not here.
Oh, she left.
Can you do the roll, Judy, for this?
Just
What?
go with, it starts with.
Just go left to right.
But does Bonnie have to be here to take the?
Bonnie,
notes?
can you quickly call the roll on the new business consent agenda? Boy, you saved these guys. I think that we've been paying attention for all these months.
Mr. Giovanella?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marcus?
Aye.
Mr. Bastian?
Aye.
Mayor Glover?
Aye. Okay, thank you. Other new business we're moving on to, a motion to accept the bill list.
Mayor, I'd like to move the bill list in the amount of $6,210,407.97.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any comments before we call the roll? Hearing none, Mrs. Lucina, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Giovanella?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marcus?
Aye.
Mr. Bastian?
Aye.
Mayor Glover?
Aye. Moving on, well, let's go back, I'm sorry, I apologize to all. I'd like a motion to move Resolution 2013-187.
Mayor, I'd like to move resolution number 2013-187, resolution authorizing state contract purchase of a pavilion for Brookside Park to Mortarana Recreation Company in an amount not to exceed $43,892.50.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I asked to move this item to the other new business because I just wanted to really discuss with the council and ask you to take a look at the structure. Obviously, appearance is not something that is really appropriate for council to determine as far as the aesthetics of what items look like, and that's not what I'm asking for here.
Wait till you get the Shackleback in proposal for the sides.
But what I'm based on some conversations that I've had with some members of the Recreation Commission and with our Recreation Director, I do know that Brookside Park has the potential to really become, a source of some substantial recreation in the future. It is the potential to be. It's a very wooded park. It's very heavily used. My concern would be in seeking a more substantial structure. I don't know what we are approving tonight, if we approve this, is the same pavilion that is over at the golf course, the mini golf course over there. It's not, to me, the kind of sturdy, substantial pavilion that I would want to see, where we would have, at the place where we have our summer camp that houses a lot of campers, and where we have so much traffic through that one particular park facility. All I would ask council to do is consider possibly having our recreation director come to a council meeting, even if it's the December meeting. This was my request for the October meeting, and for whatever reason, we didn't do that, Jerry. Do you remember why the recreation director couldn't come to the October meeting to discuss the pavilion? There was a reason.
I don't know if it was a busy agenda or something.
It was something along the lines of a busy agenda, yeah. And I, unfortunately, and very sadly, he's had a death in the family and is not in work this week, but to his credit, has been very responsive by email. So all I would like to do is possibly, before spending $44,000, is suggest the different scenarios from there. And given the fact that we do have the money that we moved from the Terry Lou Zoo to put aside for capital improvements over at the Shady Rest building that will not occur before the end of 2013, so we could budget for it in our 2014 capital budget, or a number of other scenarios. If it's a matter of $10,000 to put something that's more substantial there, I just would like the council to really understand their options. It is a large amount of money, and it's not something like a pickup truck that we're gonna have for a few years. This is gonna be there forever, or for a very long time.
How did they come up with this proposal? I got confused here. I mean, who came up with it?
They were given a budget to develop a pavilion.
And so they were working toward a budget that they didn't agree to, or?
No, they had a budgeted amount to spend, and
Didn't they make that recommendation initially? How much?
Well, that was part of their capital budget. They were given
Okay,
capital.
I'm just trying to understand.
They were given capital budget monies to purchase a pavilion for Brookside Park. This is what they came up with, is what you have.
Right, but when they asked for the capital budget, I assume the person asking had done some due diligence, right? To assume that this should cover what.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I know.
I'm not saying no, I'm just trying to understand, how is it that, here we're passing a resolution. And we're-
No, I mean, let me,
No,
so,
let Jerry, can you answer that?
Well, sure, I mean, you know, whenever.
And then you, of course, Deputy Mayor, you're the liaison.
Whenever a capital
How this
item,
happens.
and I've seen Ray's capital requests for other items in the past, and they typically include the reason, what they want, and they usually give some type of idea what they're looking for, and, you know, the council, prior to that, approved the pavilion, and this is what they decided to purchase, so.
Well-
Okay, but now we want to spend more money. I think what I'm getting at.
no, I'm sorry, I might be
Maybe that's what I don't understand.
It's late, and I may not be speaking as clearly as I could possibly.
You wanna just table this then
But I just want everybody to understand, in all seriousness, there was an expectation that a vote would move through the council to put a spray facility there. That would have negated some of the need for, let's say, a cooling station during the summer camp, during the heat of the summer camp.
There was an expectation, I didn't know.
Well, there was an
There was you had
expectation.
To build a spray park. It was
So-
a request, I don't know, did it have support?
So where I'm going with this is now we have the summer camp house there. This structure, I don't know necessarily meets the needs. It is the one that the recreation director is putting forward the request for voting on. What I am saying is, if we could possibly consider other options that would provide the ability to, let's say, put ceiling fans underneath it. I've seen plenty of pavilions that have those types of things. Because the summer camp is housed there, I just want to make
I
sure
don't
that
think
we're,
this is not going to affect the timing. I'm sure you still could get a building done, so why don't you just table this for tonight, and then we'll have a discussion at the next conference meeting, so that you could further request it, or I
I'm
think
asking-
the alternative is to move it tonight. mean,
I would like
don't-
to
I'm
have the
indifferent.
recreation director
What do you
present.
think?
I agree with the idea to table it. I mean, it seems
Yeah,
as
just
if there
table it.
seems to be some
And
confusion.
then I think you can get a, fair.
Jerry, tabling this doesn't preclude us from acting on this and
No.
okaying it in December for any reason, right? Yeah, let's go
No.
ahead and table this. I had questions as well on this, more pursuant to the location of the pavilion, and Ray called me today and answered those questions to some degree, but I think in light of all the questions, it makes absolute sense to have Ray come here in December. We'll pick this up then.
Just to give you a frame of reference, if you wanted to look, I mean, for example, Fanwood, right over in the, at the Halloween parade, I don't know if you took the kids there, but they have the, something similar to what I'm talking about, and we really looked at the two structures. One is much more substantial than the other. I'm sure it is more expensive, but I'm wondering if the council can find ways to help facilitate something.
Yeah, I'm all ears to it.
Okay.
I've seen nothing on it, so
let's
I'm happy to
table it to
table
our
it.
next meeting, okay?
Discuss it more.
So
we
who's
have a
got to make
motion.
a motion?
To table.
I'm making a motion to table item number 13, which is Resolution 2013-187.
A second?
I was going to say a second.
And then, Jerry, with that, I would request that the Recreation Director be present for the next meeting.
Okay?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Bastine, I guess you're tired.
Okay, then item number 20.
Well, let's see, we're going to do number 18 now, right?
Okay, yes, you're right.
So would you please, we want to,
Mayor, I'd like to move resolution, item number 18, resolution number 2013-192, resolution authorizing the award of a contract to TBR Architects and Planners LLC for the historic preservation, architectural engineering services related to Scotch Hills Country Club, Shady Rest, at a cost not to exceed $9,200.
is there a second? Second. Discussion, please.
I'm just very nervous, and I heard what the manager reported out on, and I appreciate 100% your guidance on this. It just seems like a substantially lower price than the others, and I'm a little bit concerned. And I understand that this person has worked for other companies before, but has this particular company as established had the ability to really form, this is a big deal for us.
They're the preservation consultant for Montclair and Milburn. They do some other advice in some other towns. The significant difference in the price is the principal charge per hour. Whereas in one of, they're all public, but I don't want to name the names. But for example, one of them will charge $270 an hour for their principal rate, and the other one will charge, this one will charge about $130 an hour.
But
That's
this
the
company
significant
as established, not the independent person when working for a different company, this company as established has its own credentials to stand on?
Yes, they're currently, this company is currently with Montclair and Milburn at the moment. and they have
Have you
some.
worked with any of these individuals before?
No,
To have an opportunity to, or have you spoken to any of their references?
No, I didn't speak to references, and I'd never worked with any of them. I didn't speak to references on any of them. I mean, I have, when they came in, I asked them to bring in copies of their reports and their documentation, all the things that they've done in the past. Both firms that came in obliged and did that. So,
Does it hurt us in any way to allow you some extra time to speak to their references?
you know, it's kind of like a job reference. You're going to call up the reference that they did the project on, and probably they're all going to say they're great. No one's going to put the name of somebody down who says they're not. You know, I also had a second set of eyes. You know, I utilized Ray for this as well. You know, and as I do with a lot of things, not just Ray, but other employees as well. So the second set of eyes was there, and you know, he had some extensive questions as well, and we were both obviously concerned that, not concerned, but obviously eye-opening when one price is significantly lower. You know, that's just, there's no question about that.
Well, what's the December meeting date?
Off the top of my head, I don't know.
December 3rd for conference, the 17th business.
Can we take action on this on the 3rd if we chose to?
Sure.
But if you're comfortable, I mean, I'm comfortable if you're comfortable with this thing, because calling references, I agree. I've called enough references in my life that no one's going to tell you, boy, they really stink. You know, the fact of the matter is you've looked at their proposals. I mean, other than us interviewing them, what else can I hope to hear? I mean, it's not unusual that a new company is going to come in with an aggressive price, hoping to be able to do more work, I assume, because this may be the first phase of an ongoing process with them, right, Jerry?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's certainly, depending.
But this is kind of gets them in the door to go and, maybe work on other portions of this renovation portions with us, I assume.
If you decide to go all out for, let's say,
Well,
whatever.
we're going to do more work than this.
Of course.
I mean,
yeah, I'm saying if the prices come in and you say, you know what, we're going all out. So yeah, there's certainly, with any of these companies, there would be that relationship going forward.
and our exposure here is we're asking them to evaluate a very finite amount of information, right? We're looking at the roof and we're looking at the structure.
There's also going to be an extensive inventory of the other things.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I've been involved in that.
There was a lot of discussion after we hired the firm to complete the source study that the necessary steps were not taken to check references and to make sure that we were hiring the appropriate amount, the appropriate people, and that was in the amount of $5,000.
I don't know if people like the report at the end if it didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. I don't know. I'm just.
It's December 3rd.
Maybe it's late in the evening, and
It's December 3rd.
We hired Jerry to do these things, and I'm confident that it's $9,200. I would support moving forward with this to get it just so we move on. It's been going on, this whole discussion about the roof there since February.
Jerry, when are they supposed to start the work?
Start as soon as the contract is signed.
And it is for 8,200, correct?
Yes, that was my mistake. I apologize for that.
That's okay.
So I'm good.
What was the next highest bid?
Why don't we listen? Let's put a proposal. Is there an objection here?
I do
just
have an objection to a roll call vote.
But I want to hear a minute. I want to take a vote on this. Okay?
I know, but what I'm saying is, Mayor, I have an objection to a roll call vote because I don't want it to be that I'm not voting to fund.
Okay. So then why don't you just abstain then from the vote? But I would propose that we call the roll on this. Can we call the roll on this, please?
Mrs. Gillanella?
Aye.
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
Mr. Marcus?
Aye.
Mr.
In the-
Baston?
Aye.
In the future, I would ask that a vote not be put before
Aye.
us without reference checks.
Okay. Thank you. Was there? I think those were the two items you wanted to remove, right?
But then we have other new business.
Oh, what's that? No, I understand we have
Okay.
other new business. I just want to make sure we took care of what you had, because now I don't recall. Did we need to take a roll call on the balance of the consent agenda? Did we do that?
We did that.
Okay, good. I just don't try to do the job right here. All right, we did the bill resolution, right? So, Ms. Lucina, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're up to reading the ordinance 2013-13.
And this is the initial introduction of the ordinance.
That's exactly right. So do I have a motion? Or, Ms. Lucina, would you please read it first?
An ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 17 Fire Prevention, Section 17.3 Fires of the Code of the Township of Scotch Plains to include a new subsection 17, it should be 17-3.3 recreational fires.
Okay.
Bonnie, December 17th?
Correct.
Mayor, I'd like to move that this ordinance be adopted on first reading and be advertised according to law in the Scotch Plains Times, and that copies be available in the clerk's office and posted on the bulletin board. The second and final reading and public hearing on the same to be held on December 17th at 7:30 p.m. in the Municipal Building, Park Avenue, Scotch Plains.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Any comments?
Yes. I have some concerns with this ordinance. I asked Jerry to reach out to our fire chief. I'm trying very hard to understand where the need for this comes from. Have we had incidents? Does it have something to do with our fire rating? Have we had any incidents of concern in Scotch Plains? I mean, just to put it in perspective for you, I'm very concerned that the council is potentially passing an ordinance which essentially establishes one practice being permitted on lots that are larger, and if you have lots, as we do, really in the neighborhood that I live in, that are of more conservative size, there's very little spot on my property where we would be in compliance with this ordinance because of the distance to structures. And I mean, I don't live in there are still neighborhoods where the homes are even closer than mine, and fences are closer and decks are closer. And are we really establishing a practice here where you have to live in a certain size lot to be able to have a small fire in a chimenea or a fire pit? And why are we doing this?
The initial concern, again, with Chief Ellis was that he came across a situation or two based on his experience of talking to other communities and just reviewing fire codes as part of his, job. He saw something that we were lacking that other towns had.
I very much appreciate him reviewing the code. Do I think people should be burning their garbage on the front lawn? Absolutely not. But as I said, we've had our chimenea on the deck, all the years that we've been here. We have a fire mat. We've been very careful about being responsible. I know many people who live in my neighborhood who have the same thing in a neighborhood so very much like mine, and they would not be in compliance with this ordinance.
Well, does this ordinance make us safer, make our community safer? Because I assume that was the intent of the chief, Jerry. If it's not, and if that's not what's coming out of here, to the deputy mayor's point, then we ought not do this. But I'm assuming we're doing this because it makes the residents, the neighborhoods safer. I don't know, I can't, we don't have time to pass laws just for the sake of,
I know Judy did some new work on the ordinance over the last weekend and the last couple of days prior.
Just dealt with the issue that was raised the last time, which was the grandfather issue. So the issue was out, which father issue was that agreed with, that would grandfather be 15 foot we have structure. That was going to change that. I was going to prior issue as to what Genesis was.
Microphone. Well, we just had the initial reading of the ordinance. We can't hold off. We just had the initial reading.
Yeah, you
Just vote it down.
Just- yeah.
Be brought back up again.
you can do that.
I was gonna say, why don't we just pass the first reading? Okay? Can we pass the first reading?
Well, I'm not going to vote yes today. How the
you
rest
don't
of the
have to.
council chooses to vote is up to them. I'm uncomfortable because I think you're establishing different practices based on affluence level, and that's a concern.
We'll have time to vet this at the second reading, right?
My civil rights attorney.
Okay, so we know what first readings are. So Ms. Lucina, would you please go?
Well,
You have a comment? Ron?
I
Sorry,
do,
Mr.
I do.
Bastien.
No, in addition to agreeing with the deputy mayor about the difference in lot sizes having a potential dramatic impact, the fact that she has her chimney on the deck would become illegal as well in section 6, so I don't want that to happen. But more importantly, I think section 9, the fact that an outdoor fireplace or fire pit which creates a nuisance can be forced to be extinguished. I mean, who's the arbiter of that?
It's interesting. I received an email, and the email was from the resident, and I understand this resident's point. This resident was saying, you know, this is the same as the smoking ordinance for the parks. Now, respectfully, I don't know that I agree with that. This is something that would be now, even I would say it would be unreasonable to tell somebody you can't smoke outside your own home. Even I.
Pandora's box?
Even I would say it.
But to your point though, I think in all of these things that maybe we need a revisit from the chief, because some of these things I'm not comfortable with, and if I'm being asked to vote for or against this right now, I'm not for it.
Okay.
Dr. Marcus?
Well, you've convinced me. If the two of you feel that way, if you have those concerns, I thought everybody expressed their concerns the
I
last
wasn't there
time.
at that meeting though.
But, I respect that. I mean, if you have
Listen,
additional
I
concerns.
agree. So let's table it. Can we table it? Do we have to go for?
Well, first of all, we've got a motion on the floor.
Give us some guidance here.
Got to go forward
You gotta
and vote on it.
And then we could make a motion afterwards to, we don't have to. If it's done, and we can bring it back up.
So
All right.
do we restate the motion? Yeah, I have no clue.
So the motion was the ordinance.
Was introduce the ordinance.
introduction of the ordinance. So
Right?
the
And
next
you-
step is
And
to
you
have
have
a
a second, and you had a discussion, so now you need
So
a vote.
We can vote not to introduce the ordinance.
Yes, you
So
can.
I assume that's what we're gonna do.
Right.
I assume that's what we're gonna do,
Right.
correct?
That requires the roll
Can
call.
Yes.
I'm well aware of that. Can we have a roll call?
Mrs. Giulianella?
I
Hey.
vote not to introduce the ordinance.
Right, next,
Mr. Jones?
Aye.
to introduce or not to introduce?
Aye, to not
And make it
introduce
very
the
clear.
Mr. Marcus?
Aye.
Mr. Bassett?
I vote not to introduce
Good.
the ordinance.
Mayor
No
Gordon?
ambiguity there. I vote not to introduce the ordinance. It's very clear. It's unanimous. We're not introducing this ordinance.
25 is not,
25, 24, we're aware that that's off, okay?
So unless the camera person wants to run to the microphone.
I was gonna say, there's nobody there, so
I'll
I'm
make a
not gonna
motion that we
entertain phone
adjourn.
calls at this, so may I, excuse me, Mr. Bastien, may I have a motion to adjourn the public meeting and to enter into executive session? We have a
We're going to
motion
close,
adjourn?
I'm sorry, Mayor, we're doing a motion to close the
Close
public,
the
right?
public meeting.
Yes,
Right.
and enter into executive
Exactly.
session.
So that's what I said, but
Is that
maybe I
your
didn't
motion?
at this point. Is there a second?
was that your motion?
Second.
Oh, okay, It happened.
Whereas Article 6 of the Open Public Meetings Act provides that a public may hold a closed session, and whereas the Township Council will during this meeting enter into discussion of the following matters: contract negotiations, police department merger update, professional service contracts. Whereas the matters to be discussed in closed session are to remain in the strictest of confidence by all Township Council members in furtherance of their fiduciary duties to the Township of Scotch Plains. Now therefore be it resolved, matters discussed at this meeting will be released to the public when the reason for discussing and acting upon them in closed session no longer exists.
Okay, we're gonna need a closed session, so we need to break down the cameras. We're gonna stay here, I assume, right?
Why don't we go upstairs?
No, that's what I'm saying. We can, have a,
It's 10 after 11, is that really necessary?
I don't think it's, I think she's gonna disconnect the camera.
She's gonna
Just give her a
disconnect the
couple of minutes,
cameras.
okay? Just take the wires out if you would, and